All right, so here we have it. We have our form. It's hooked up to a transaction. We're living the dream. And we know that at the very least, it's not going to throw an error when we run the transaction in MetaMask. Now, I think I made in the last video a little bit of an error in assuming that if it doesn't throw an error in my MetaMask, then everything's going to be fine. You can just publish the boost and have a big celebration. But that's not the case. I think it's very important to get in the habit of testing a proposal. So in this video, what we're going to do is we're just going to do a little test transaction. We'll skip ahead until and execute it and see if it works. And then what we'll also do is we're going to clean up our transaction Lego that we built here, because transaction Legos don't live in the form Legos. They live in their own documents, and I'll show you how to get set up there. So first things first, let's get this all filled out. This is what are we going to call it? Big test 2. Second big test. Bonanza Bro. And we're going to do our staking address, which I think is auto-filled right there again. Very convenient. Thank you, autofill. And I wonder if that... Oh, look at that. Wow. Just spoiling me. So, submitting the transaction. The reason I really want to test this is because we know that it will submit the proposal, but the minion data that gets executed once the proposal passes, we have no way of knowing if that's going to work or not until we actually run a proposal. And so a great way to test it is to actually just run a proposal instead of looking at the MetaMask and assuming that I did everything perfect like a fool. So let's fast forward here. I'm just going to run through all these proposal stages again, vote them all through. Very boring stuff, so we'll skip ahead until it's done. Okay, so it has went through all of the proposal periods here. We voted it up. Only guy in the DAO, so not a whole lot of resistance there. We processed the proposal, and now we're going to go execute. Look at that, ready to go. I'll close this. So interesting. So we got our proposal type here. It's a little bare bones in terms of UI and some of these transfer components. So maybe we'll have a video where we make some custom components here. But otherwise, looking pretty good. Looking pretty good. Excellent. So the proposal's been executed. We're just going to go to the boost just to double check that our minion actually had funds removed from it. Right now, we don't see it. There's going to be that waiting period again. So I'll see you again once the funds have been updated. So I'm about 10 minutes in waiting here, and you notice the value still hasn't changed. And sometimes that happens with the subgraph and on these test nets. So I thought I'd walk through a bit of my process just to make sure that I know that it's actually working. So one thing I would always do is check the transaction hash on Etherscan. As you notice, it's still indexing. It's been for quite some time. Keep refreshing. Nothing's really changed. So, who knows how long that will take. But another thing I look at is Tenderly. Sometimes you can get an early glimpse as to whether or not it worked. And as you can see, it does. So you can see the entire call stack here and the actual tokens transferred to, which is really helpful. So you can see this address right here, which is our Gnosis safe. And it has transferred, it shows that it has transferred this amount right here to this address, which is our farming address. So it's saying that from the Gnosis safe, we have transferred this amount to the staking address, and it is an unknown token, which we know from entering in this value into our form over and over again that this is our staking token. So we know that the transaction worked, but sometimes it just takes a long time to index. And so this is another tool you can have in your tool belt just to make sure that things work. All right, so it looks like it's still taking some more time for the transaction index. So I've seen enough on Tenderly here to know that it probably worked. We can check in on this later just to make sure. But in the meantime, while we're waiting, what we can do is go into the code, and we're going to start. Sorry, I'm just going to clean up here a little bit. We're going to go into our swapper boost form, and we kind of want this to look like all the other forms. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull this guy out of here, and then we're going to go into our files here. Let's make a new document in TX Legos called swapper boost tx.js. And right now we're just going to dump this in here. And going to do swapper boost tx. And we're going to make this a nested object because we might have other transactions. And I would say, there should be more than one transaction for this. There's a lot of different ways you can interact with Swapper. You could, add liquidity or pull liquidity, or you can make a swap with your DAO, anything. So, making one swap form is a very, very small part of an overall or an entire suite that you can do, or of contract interactions that you can have with your DAO. And I don't know why I just called that swap. Probably because I was saying swap and typing at the same time. So yeah, we're going to call this stake. That is the action here. So swapper boost dot stake. Let's we got to import this now. I'm just going to get all my imports here. There we are. Boom. And boom. Look at that. Ready to go. Of course, we have to export this. Save. This is yelling at us, so we'll let it yell at us for a little bit, maybe clear out some of these import statements here. Look at that. What we're going to do, now we're in our swapper boost, we're exporting it properly. Let's go to contract TX. That's like the parent component. And we want to get our swapper stuff in there as well. So we're going to do swapper boost forms. Oh, forms. Whew. Swapper boost TX. Excellent. Automatically imported here. We don't need those forms that I imported. Back to swapper boost TX. Or no, sorry. Swapper boost forms. Uncomment TX dot. Oh, interesting. So what we're going to want to do is name this swapper stake, because once we spread this into here, if it just shows up as stake, well, we could have many different dexes that we're going to interact with, and hopefully that's the case. So we don't want to just have stake, because that will overwrite and will throw an error once we run our little tests here. So we don't want that. We want it to have a name that is unique. So we're going to go with swapper stake here. Excellent. Then once we're in swapper boost forms, go tx.swapper stake. And if we hover over and control click, it should bring us right to our transaction that we built right here. And that is looking pretty clean. looking pretty clean here, and that's how you organize your Legos. So interestingly enough, this is still indexing. So what we're going to do, we're going to end the video here, and I'll post an update once this finally completes. But we can go into here and just double check. We don't need to go through the entire proposal process again, but we can double check that this works because we just swapped out the transaction. So TX test, Manza Bro, perfect, submit. If we had lost our transaction, this would not submit at all. So we know that this works. We can reject, and good job so far. We're ready to, in the next video, start creating some custom components. So it doesn't look so sad and lonely right here. We can start saying something like staking blah, blah, blah into swapper rewards. All right, thank you. All right, now we can see that the balance is finally updated. It's probably been about 40 minutes or so. What had happened was that the Rinkeby Etherscan was behind, and it still actually is a little bit. It's about 19 minutes behind, but before it was about 3.5 hours behind, and now it's kind of speeding along. So our transaction got updated, and these vaults here, on the back end require a bit of data from Etherscan to find which tokens tokens they have. So that's why we were seeing that delay there. All right, thank you.